I got dead presidents. Hey, look, for your dead friends. Hey, look, I got dead presidents. Hey, blue honey, blue honey, blue honey. JJ, blue honey, blue honey, blue honey. JJ, blue honey, blue honey, blue honey. JJ, blue honey, blue honey, blue honey. JJ. I don't like green hunters, I like blue ones. Moving on they pivot, I would never switch it. I ain't even gotta prove none. Like, hey, hey. Pull up in the morning, like, hey, hey. Hey, hey. I just don't, what? I just won't.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode. Well, actually, this is the first episode, featuring moi, Earl A. Conway, your host. Welcome to Brooklyn Finance Entrepreneurs Podcast. I had this idea for a while now, and listen, man, it's perfect timing. So this episode is just sort of like an introduction episode, just to get you guys to familiarize yourself with me. Go in a little bit about my stories, how I became an entrepreneur, where did it come from, a little bit about my family, background, work history, and the numerous of businesses I had. So basically, this podcast, man, is just to add value. I mean, I'm the type of person where I'm always helping, right? There's a joy, there's a peace, there's a satisfaction of helping. And as I go through things myself, it brings me to a point where I'm more inclined to tell my story and to help and to just add value to people's life. So this podcast is pretty much to the focus is to help bridge that gap between you wanting to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, and actually making that happen. I mean, we'll cover a lot of different grounds. We'll cover in detail, right? The intricate details of the trials, the tribulations, the ups, the downs, the success, the mindset. We'll have a couple of guests periodically come through, tell their stories, businesses, business owners, entrepreneurs, all come and tell their stories, man. And hopefully it add value to your journey. If you ever thought about becoming your own boss, if you ever thought about being an entrepreneur, through these stories, I hope, my hope is that you're able to get some value out of it to help you along with your journey. Again, my name is Earl A. Conway. A little bit about me. Well, origin, nationality, I'm Guyanese. I was born in Guyana. I came to the U.S. when I was about 5-6 years old. My mom suddenly passed, and my father was already here in the U.S. And the family kind of got together and just edged him on for him to be able to bring me to the U.S. When I got here, interestingly enough, it was hard. First of all, I'm coming off of losing my mom and not really understanding that, and then just being taken away, not specifically taken away, but kind of like it happened so abruptly, just I had this life in Guyana where I had my grandmother, my mom, my younger sister, and 2 uncles, and then just being snatched out of that, everything that was familiar to me, everything that I knew, and was brought here to the U.S. And I was pretty much around strangers, because in the U.S. was my father's side of the family, and I've never met them before. So that took some time to get and adjust to, and I have great family members, man. I mean, ironically, I lost my family in Guyana due to my mom passing, but I was able to come here to America and be able to get a whole new family, a big family, right? So it was kind of like a win-lose, situation. So I got here, and yeah, like I said, everything was new, everything was loud, everything was noisy. It took some adjusting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I I definitely had an accent, right? That West Indian accent. I had the mannerism of a young West Indian child. You know, and in Guyana, I was a lot free. Here in America, it was a lot more structured. So I started public school, and public school was difficult. I mean, academically, I did okay. I did well, actually, back home in Guyana. But when I came here to the States, it was different, right? Um, everything, the work was just foreign to me, and that took some time to get and adjust to. Um, on top of that, I used to stutter really bad. I think I still stutter a little bit now, right? But that was an obstacle that I had to get over and overcome. Eventually, I did, and that started to shape things or move things in a better positive light for me. Another thing that I also struggled with was seizures. I used to have a lot of seizures. I don't know if I hit my head when I was young, or something was, wrong with my brain or something. I don't know what happened, but I used to have a lot of seizures, and these seizures episodes was it was horrendous, man. I mean, if you could imagine being on a roller coaster with like a drop, a real long drop. Like a seizure episode feels like that. It feels like a never ending drop, right? And you lose all control. Your eyes kind of roll to the back of your head, and you have no consciousness of where you are or what's going on, and you lose all of your faculty, everything, function, everything, and you're just biting on your tongue. I mean, you bite your tongue so much that it starts to bleed. And eventually, my father started to take me to the doctor. I commend him for that. I thank him so much for that. He started to take me to the doctor, and neurologists and all these different specialists. And I started to take some medicine and stuff like that, and they told me that eventually I'll grow out of it. So thank God I haven't had a seizure in over, I don't know, maybe 30 years, right? And so that was a blessing. I was able to overcome stuttering, which was another blessing, because when I started public school, that actually, I got teased for that, and I was automatically put back a grade because academically I couldn't keep up. So that was the early, Earl A. Conway coming to the States situation. Then I got into junior high school. We actually lived in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And going to junior high school now it was an experience within itself, right? We lived in the hood of the hoods, right? A lot of crime, a lot of drugs, just everything you can think of, right? So I was exposed to all of these different things that I wasn't when I was back home in Guyana. And that took some adjusting, but by the time I got to junior high school, I had a little swag, I was known around the neighborhood, and, started to get into a lot of trouble, right? Back then, we had little gangs and stuff, and, I mean, junior high school was, oh man, 271, man. Shout out to everybody who went to 271 and remember what I'm talking about, man. 271 was almost like gladiator school, There was always fights, there was always, I remember, going to school with guns, and there was always shootouts, and I mean, it was not the place you want to be, right? Or a place where you want to send your child, right? But it was the zoning school, and we didn't have too much say-so in coming outside of the zone, unless you used someone else's address, and so on and so on. So Junior high school happened. During the course of junior high, I was getting into a lot of trouble. You know, caught myself at one point stealing cars. Taking it to the chop shop. Doing all types of stuff. I mean, snatching pocketbooks, robberies, selling drugs. Not as bad as these actions was. I kind of like dabbled with it, all the time. It wasn't something that I gravitated to, and thought that this is what my life is gonna be like. I always had sort of like an outlook, and to just I had an optimistic view of what my future was gonna look like. I think that kind of initially came into my mind, just watching my mom pass and being there when she passed. But I was able to have so much memory about her. I remember her strength. I remember how beautiful she was. I remember the beatings she gave me. I remember where she used to work. I remember she used to ride a motorcycle, right? I remember, seeing a couple of boyfriends that she used to date and stuff like that. I remember when she got sick, when she was in the hospital. I remember when she used to cook for me. So, as bad as that and tragic, that situation was, somehow God filled me with enough memory of her to give me this optimistic outlook of on life. So I started out of junior high school. When I got out of junior high school, I got my first job, and my brother was actually working at Pathmark, and he got me a job at Pathmark. I was a cashier there, and over there at Starrett City, and I think that's considered East New York, part of East New York, right? And that was my first job. I was excited. I used to get on the bus and take the bus to work and come back home, and and then get into trouble, right on the block, because the environment is what it is, right? It's hard to take yourself out of the environment at times, especially when the environment is set up for pretty much destruction, right? And but the fact that I had a job, it took me out of the environment at least for 8 hours or 10 hours. 8 hours of working, 1 hour traveling, another hour traveling back home. So that was exciting time. First job, started to make a little bit of money. Wasn't doing the stuff that I used to do, or as much, right? And then after that, I got into high school. I went to automotive high school. I believe that's in Greenpoint. I wanted to be a mechanic, right? And back then it was, our parents always told us, listen, get a trade, get a trade, because that's the only promising employment that you can find, right? Become a trade, whether you got into construction or any type of trade, that's just a West Indian kind of thing. Most West Indians are tradesmen, right? So that was exciting. But automotive was so rough also, because automotive was predominantly male, right? It was a bunch of guys, a lot of testosterone, a lot of fighting in there also, right? So I couldn't concentrate in automotive because it was always drama, right? So I got out of automotive and I ended up transferring to Maxwell. Now, Maxwell was the total flip side of that. Maxwell was a sort of like a trade school. They did cosmetology there. I didn't want to be a cosmetologist, right? But they had accounting, and I took up accounting there. But at this point, my family did the best that they can. I have a lot of women in my family, and each one of them, I thank God for them, each one of them took time, like different parts of my life, taking care of me, pouring into me, and nurturing me, just trying their best to fill that void of me not having a mom. even though I was fully appreciated and I loved them. I mean, the relationship that I have with the women in my family, it's like, I mean, I can't even articulate it. I can't even put it into words. And it was it was a beautiful thing. It still is a beautiful thing, you know. So but by this time, I'm a little older, and they really can't keep up with me, and I'm moving around, and things like that. My father was there, but wasn't there, right? We never had any conversations, or like, he didn't really teach me things or showed me how to maneuver, or things like that. So a lot of things I had to figure out myself, through trial and error, making a bunch of mistakes, and recouping, and just praying, and asking God to show me the way. And I mean, I kind of I definitely got that instilled in me from my mother, my grandmother, who passed about 2 years ago. So with that type of armor, you know, I was able to maneuver through a lot of things and a lot of situations that could have gone really, really bad for me. But I dropped out of Maxwell, right? Because I was running around doing what I want to do, and dropped out of Maxwell, and then it was just pretty much on the block all the time, right? But then I ended up getting another job. I started to sell timeshare, and that was something crazy. I used to go up to the Poconos and sell people timeshares and stuff like that. That was out in Queens Village, so that was cool. But then I figured, okay, well, I have to do something with my life. So what I'll do is I have to go back to school. So I couldn't go back to school, but because by this time I was already over 18, so I eventually went back and I got my GED. I'm a GED kid, right? Don't judge me. So I got my GED, and I was like, okay. Now I'm ready to enter into the workforce, right? At least from high school equivalency sort of position, right? I can get a couple of jobs, and then started working at this company called Elite Car Service. Elite Car Service. I was a representative there. I was taking your calls and making your reservations for you. They was out there in Queens also, and did that for about 2 years, and then all of a sudden I had I was dating this girl, and next thing you know, she was pregnant, right? Like, oh, pregnant. I mean, pregnant means baby. Like I'm still kind of like a baby too, and a baby is coming. But at this point, I was already considering going to college now, so I had to put college on hold. Trials, tribulations. I had to put college on hold. I was going to go to a local community college, and I couldn't do that because I was stressed out, right? Here's this 20-year-old stressed out. He has a baby on the way. He's trying to figure his life out, and the only thing I was thinking about was I have to be responsible. I have to take care of my son. So I continued to just work. And then on my way to work every day, on my block, they started to develop 1 or 2 family houses. And every day I walked by this construction site, I would see this short guy standing outside. And he had this kind of Napoleon complex kind of thing about him, and just boss written all over him, and he would be telling people what to do, and everybody would be coming to him. And I watched him for a couple of weeks, and then one day I built up enough courage, and I said, I asked him if I can get a job, and he looked at me. He's like, a job? He's like, what are you gonna do? Because I was really, really skinny and stuff like that. And the job I was actually asking him for was a security job, because he was a developer, but he also had the security contract for these buildings. These buildings always had to have 24-hour security on them. because people would vandalize the buildings, the houses. They would take materials and stuff like that. So after about a month and a half or so of just talking to him and him telling me what he do, and I guess he started to say, okay, this kid is and he would have these conversations with me. He'd take time out and have these conversations with me, and eventually he gave me a job. And that was my first exposure to business. I worked for him as a security guard for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then he made me a supervisor. So now I was in charge of just driving around to different development sites in Brooklyn and checking to see if security guards are out, see if they're making their rounds, see if they're not sleeping, and so on and so on. Then he did a great service for me. Like, he exposed me to business. He took a liking to me. He took a liking to my hustle. He took a liking to how hard I worked and how focused I was. And he started to take me to all of his business meetings. And he would be going to these meetings with the city, with different board members, just a lot of different, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of different contractors, subcontractors, everyone that was bidding on doing development in Brooklyn was there. Different types of organizations and things like that. And I would go into these meetings with him, and I would sit there and I would listen, and I would watch how they conduct business and how they talk, and how they would negotiate contracts and the time frame between contract signing. I would learn about zoning laws, and all these different things was being poured into me, and I was just sucking it up. And then eventually, 2 years later after that, I ended up actually partnering up with him, and we started a security company. So now I'm getting my first whip of boss life, right? And we had the company. We had about 8 security guards under that company. I was president and CEO. He made me president and CEO of the company, and I was calling all the shots, and making schedules and doing all this thing. And I actually learned all of this from him also, because as a supervisor, what he had me doing was I was in charge of payroll, and I would work in the office with the secretaries, and they would show me things, and I would go to the bank. I was maybe 23, 24, going to the bank, coming back to the office with 300,000, 250,000, and just because we was paying in cash, right? Construction business, we was paying in cash, and it was quite the experience. So that was my first exposure to business. After that, I said, okay, I really need to do something on my own, right? I thought that I had built up enough education, I had enough exposure, and I wanted to do my own thing, right? So during the midst of that, I also started working with my uncle. One of my uncles have about, I don't know, maybe about 10 different buildings. And when a tenant moves out, I would go work with him, and I would help him remodel the houses, the apartments and stuff like that. And he was also, the super for all of the buildings also. So I would help him with anything related to, the super stuff, plumbing and electrical and all these different things. And I also worked with another uncle where I used to do the same thing. He had a little side business that he also did a lot of remodeling, kitchens and bathrooms and stuff like that for his clients. So at this point, totally exposed to construction, demolition, development, and business. All right. Then I ended up going to a wedding, one of my aunt's wedding in Georgia, because half of my family is actually from Georgia. So I went down there, and what I saw in Georgia was that Georgia had all this land, and compared to New York, here in New York, at that time it was little lots, and everybody was fighting for these little lots, and then you could only put up one or two buildings in these lots. But in Georgia, they had so much land that they was building subdivisions. I'm talking about 30, 40 houses. And the same uncle that owns property here in New York, I was talking to him. I was like, listen, what do you think of me coming down here and getting into development? And he kind of discouraged me a little bit. He told me, he said, well, the money down here is kind of slow, and you better off just doing it in New York, and but my eyes was wide open, because I was like, even though the money is slow, look at the quantity that I'll be able to do. I don't mind the slow money if it's 30, 40 houses development that I'm a part of, right? So I took the opportunity to go out there. At this point, I was actually working. I had got into healthcare as a housekeeper, and I worked my way up there. I started housekeeping. When I started housekeeping, I was making like $7 an hour, and then I became a supervisor there through working in that setting. I actually was able to work at 2 different hospitals as a housekeeping supervisor. And I had a lot of things going for me there, right, at that point, right? My uncle also had offered me, from one of his buildings, he offered me the storefront. And my second business venture was actually going to be to do a barbershop. Okay, that didn't work because I wasn't a barber. And I had all these plans. I had some money saved, to invest. I did all the research and, to get chairs. And I had this barber that was actually going to work in the barber shop as the lead barber, and I was actually going to use his license. But that didn't work out because at the last minute he kind of flaked out, and I was hurt. I was really, really hurt. So I had nowhere to go. Then my uncle was pressuring me about, do you want the spot or do you not? And so on and so on. And then, I was still kind of young too. And I said, well, you know what? No, I'm not going to do it. So I took the money and I went out and bought a brand new Lexus, right? Had my little Lexus car and stuff like that. And wrong move. But I'm still growing and learning, right? Mistakes, right? And so I blew that money, went and bought a car, and, still working at the 2 different hospitals. So I was, I was all right. But then I got tired of New York, and I ended up just moving to Georgia. Now, prior to that, my third exposure to business was, which was my second mentor, my cousin, Stan Fraser. He started a clothing line. His mother was a seamstress, Miss Barbara. Shout out to Miss Barbara. She was a seamstress. She used to sew for Tommy Hilfiger and all these high-end designers and things like that. And he picked up that gift, right? Picked up that talent from her and from his uncle Desmond. And he started a clothing line. And since I knew a lot about business, I started to work with him to help him bring this clothing line into fruition. Shout out to Anarchy Jeans, man. So that was like that was another exposure to business, and we ran that for a while. I mean, we was actually emulating FUBU, right? It was 4 of us, and we had our meetings and we set up shop, and this was a custom jeans company where we were sewing everything, everything was custom too. Sold a lot of t-shirts and had a great run with that, right? And so I ended up going to Georgia, and once I got to Georgia, I was able to actually find a job at a hospital, really, really quick. I didn't know I was going to do that. So what I did was I actually had some money and I went to Broadway, bought some Air Force Ones and some sneakers and some clothes, and I took it down there in the trunk of my car. And my cousin Kwame from out there, you know, every day we would come out and we would just be selling all this stuff, and that kept me kept money in my pocket until I was able to find a job. So I found a job at the hospital down there, and this great lady by the name of Marcia, she was actually from New York, treated me like a son. You know, I came in there, I was a supervisor there also, and ran that for a while, and then, you know, took me some time to get adjusted to Georgia. And once I did, I started a company there. And what I did with this company was I was working with a group of investors, and I would go out, find properties, look at what the market says the property is worth, look at all of the comparables, what the other houses are selling for in that area, look to see who's getting permits, look to see if any big retailers are coming into that community, like Walmart, or because when a big retailer like Walmart or whatever it is, right, Target, or what happens to that neighborhood is that the neighborhood starts to build up value, and everything around the neighborhood starts to change. So I would do all this research and look at how much it would cost to fix the property up, look to see who owned it, contact owners, do all this paperwork and stuff, and I would take it to the investors, and I would sell it to them. I would add my fee on there, you know, maybe $5,000, $10,000 on the asking price, and that's how I would make more money. That was great. I was living the life in Georgia. So long story short, I ended up coming back to New York. You know, girlfriend issues, right? Ended up coming back to New York, and once I got back, I said, okay, what am I gonna do? So I went, since I learned so much about the real estate game while I was in Georgia, I got back here to New York, and immediately I went and I got my real estate license. I started working for a company in Soho, Mark David and Company. Shout out to Terrence Harden, man. Terrence Harden is a guy that I met there at Mark David and Company, man. He was a superstar, man. He still is a superstar real estate agent, man. Right now he has he has a full team under him, and he's doing his thing, man. I used to watch how he used to move. I couldn't keep up with him, man, and he was moving so fast he ain't even had time for me, right? But we connected. He was actually in Junior Mafia, right? So shout out to Terrence Harden, man. I gotta get you on here, bro. I gotta get you on here. So I started as a realtor, and I sucked. You know, I was doing apartments. Apartments was fast paced, right? And it was hard. And then around that time, that's when the market crashed also. So it was the wrong time, and it was difficult. So after I did that, I said, okay, I have to do something else. So I ended up actually going back to college at this point, right? Went back to school, got a chance to actually go to college, and my major, I took up construction management. So I got a degree in construction management, and but by this point now, you can see that I'm not even struggling academically, right? Which is a blessing. So I got my degree in construction management, and I started working for a company in Jersey, and I was an assistant project manager, still into construction, still development, still business. And that was a great experience. So in between all of that, I mean, I always kept a job, right? Even though I was pursuing business, because business is tough, business is hard, right? And you know, sometimes you make money, sometimes you don't. I mean, with my experience, right? It's just unpredictable, right? But the reason why I love it, because of the control, right? I love the freedom of it, right? I love the fact that I can create that anything that happens within my business, it's on me. Like I have control of that. I could make it successful or I could make it a failure, right? And I like to be in control of my time, of my money. Um, so I gravitated to that early because the up of owning your own business and being an entrepreneur, it definitely outweighs anything that you can get from actually working a 9 to 5 that's not beneficial for you. You know, not all 9 to 5s is not beneficial, but the ones that are, that just sucks you dry of your time, your energy, your focus, family time, and all of this stuff. And it just pays you chump change compared to what your time is valued as. So I never wanted to end up selling my time and my freedom. So I would always fight. I would have great jobs. I mean, you name it. And I always kept a job because it gave me some form of stability when it comes down to being able to take care of my responsibilities. And even that was tough, right? So that's why I would always fight to have a business, or if some type of partnership came up, I would look to take advantage of that. And I would only choose jobs specifically that I could manipulate, right? Where I can have free time. So I went and I got my CDL license. So I figured if I'm driving, I'm by myself. There's no boss over me, right? I can maneuver, right? I could take an hour, half an hour here and just read, research, and do all these different things to get me into this business world, to get me into being an entrepreneur. I mean, you name it, I did it. I used to drive school bus. I used to drive Accessoride. I used to drive for a tool rental company. I used to deliver those bulldozers and cranes and stuff that you see at construction sites, right? I know how to drive those things. I used to also work for a building material company where I would deliver building materials, them big long trucks with the flatbed, and they have like a little piggyback on the back that looked like a forklift. And so I did a lot of things, man. But just to be able to survive. So a lot of you, I know it's difficult, man. It's difficult. It's kind of like you can't just leave your job, right? Because you have bills and you have responsibility, right? Because you're the uncertainty of a business working and you being an entrepreneur, right? That may not pan out. It might take years for that to actually be a success. So, it's almost like, you kind of have to play this balancing act. I mean, I don't know if that is the correct way to do it, but I've always had to play this balancing act. And it's really tough. It's really hard. But through persevering and just knowing what I want, right? And just believing, in my capabilities and my experiences, I know that eventually I will get there, right? This podcast is a product of that, right? My publishing company that I have is a part of that, right? Just me wanting so badly to be able to follow my dreams and to make something out of myself, right? To go through the hardship, to go through the pain, to go through the failing, right? To go through, and mixed with some success, because it's just not failures. It's a lot of success, it's a lot of up also. So this podcast pretty much is about just helping, right? Helping all of you, helping people to navigate, the working life, the entrepreneurship life, right? Just trying, a lot of us have dreams and aspirations and things that we always wanted to do, but we don't know where to start. We don't know how to even get there, right? So a lot of the guests and myself, through our stories, you'll be able to pick out what resonates with you, for you to be able to make it to the next level. It's not an overnight thing. It just doesn't happen. Like, you have to go through this pain. Like, I call it pain, right? Because it's pain, and not too many people are willing to succumb themselves to that type of pain. It takes a lot of sacrifice, right? You know how many times I have to start from zero? You know how many times I've lost everything to have to build it back up again? But there's a satisfaction in that, right? It's not even about getting anywhere particular to say, okay, I've made it to this success level. It's about the journey. My journey has been so amazing that I would not trade it for anything in the world. Not no money, not anything. I have testimonies upon experiences. Like, I felt like I really feel like I'm living like 3 lives. The amount of stuff that I've done, and it just feels so good that, I can talk to anybody about anything. I can chime into any conversations. I can be relatable. I mean, like, that's where the gist of life is. It's through experiences, right? Because life is always expanding, always growing, right? So I urge you to jump on that growth wagon, right? To jump on that you evolving wagon, right? You expanding wagon, and to suck up all of these experiences, right? And become a better you, right? Pursue what it is you want to pursue. Go after what it is you want to go after, and set things up so that your kids, right? For those of you who have kids, for those of you who want to have kids, for them to be able to see, how much of a blessing the journey is. All right, so stick with us, share this video. I'll have, by the next video, I'll have all the social media links and everything like that. But you guys who know me, you can find me on Facebook and stuff like that. BrooklynFinanceEntrepreneurship.com. Instagram, it's BFE Podcast, and Twitter, same thing. So follow us. We have a lot of interesting interviews, a lot of interesting topics, and thanks for being a part of this, man. Love you guys.
Hey, for your dead friends. Hey, look, I got dead presidents. Hey, look, for your dead friends. Hey, look, I got dead presidents. Hey,
till next time, change your mindset, change your reality. Brooklyn Finest Entrepreneurs.
Blue honey, blue honey, blue honey, blue honey.